When a manufacturer makes an excellent car, people will usually flock over to their nearest dealer and pick one up. However, to the eyes of other motorists, they don't seem to know that your car is the best thing since sliced bread. Instead, they will reflect on their previous encounters with your kind of car, or a funny meme they saw online. And just like that, they will have already built up an opinion of you, and for all the wrong reasons. So here are 10 great cars with awful stereotypes. Please note that some of these stereotypes were so bad that I had to include the entire manufacturer.
Jungle.
Honda Civic. The lovely Honda Civic. This humble hatchback has been around since the 1970s, and it has gained a reputation for being reliable, cheap and fun to drive. However, since the early 2000s, people have stopped seeing the Civic for what it is, and instead they see it as the messed up rice box that the car's owners have turned it into. Their owners are usually council estate hooligans who love lying about their car, smoking fags and drinking Buckfast. Gone are the days where Civics were frequent supercar slayers on a small racetrack, and instead they are just low-budget rusty stance machines to the untrained eye. To make matters worse, Honda has embraced the trendy aftermarket scene of the early 2000s into their own cars. Just compare the old and beautiful EK9 to the most recent FK8 Type R. The Chevrolet Corvette. The Chevrolet Corvette has become an American icon over the last 7 years, as being Kentucky's finest sports car. This car has been driven by all kinds of people, astronauts, film stars and even porn stars. Unfortunately, those days are gone, and instead most Corvettes are purchased by an age group you wouldn't associate with cars like the Corvette. Elderly men who golf. Those old golfers rock up to the local country club in their Vette all over the US. Hell, I've even seen some Vettes at my local golf club. All these drivers want to do is to relive their boyhood dreams, wear hats that don't fit them, and wear cargo shorts way too high. The Corvette is the midlife crisis mobile of the United States. Teslas. Tesla is an interesting car company with an innovative approach and amazingly quick cars, but its owners are an extremely annoying and boring bunch. No regular car guy would ever buy a Tesla, or an electric car for that matter, as regular car guys still want fossil fuels with a 6-speed manual, and the car guys who do own a Tesla usually have one or two more fossil fuel powered cars, which therefore kind of defeats the purpose of owning an electric car in the first place. From what some people can gather, Tesla owners are all tech geeks who buy these cars mostly for the gadgets and the big tablet in place of the center console. Not only that, Tesla fanboys are usually people who want everyone to know about how eco-friendly they are, and how their car is brilliant and that your car is worse than Hitler. This makes Tesla owners a boring bunch of rich IT wizards, virgins, who finally found a car that they can adore, and the regular car guys can hate. However, I personally disagree with this stereotype. I personally think that the Teslas are the millennial car. The car driven by the person who feeds on gluten-free food, posts selfies of their trip to Spain during a global pandemic on their lovely little iPhone, who love the smell of their own farts. Cars such as the Model X are so big and plain yet so ugly and pretentious, it makes some motorists, and even me, look at them and go, wow, what a dick. All Audis. Audi are currently on a roll. They've released some very capable and nice vehicles such as the A and RS5 and the new e-tron, but let's not forget the old but gold Audi R8. However, thanks to Clarkson, Audi drivers have been called out for their obsessive tailgating, overly confident driving and being a bit of a douchebag. Most Audi owners usually work in sales, advertising, or they're just a high-up manager somewhere. So you know that they've worked hard enough to avoid their vehicle. Sadly, this means that they can come out as being overly confident and will never admit that they're wrong. And they will think that they own the road. Sounds a little familiar? To make matters worse, younger people are buying 10-year-old A4s and modifying them and bringing them to their local McDonald's, but more on that later. Surprisingly, they share a lot more in common with two more cars that I will get onto later on. Subaru WRX. The Subaru WRX is the vape enthusiast's choice of machine. Scooby owners love the sound of their sweet flat 4 turbo engine. They will tell everyone that it's 100 times better than an Evo, which it isn't by the way, and they will fanboy on fellow SCI owners. The WRX owner will sometimes move away from the car's all-wheel drive performance for a more low-down stance boy approach. They survive on a diet of energy drinks and any food that can be bought from their local convenience store, usually crisps. But who can forget about their precious head gaskets? Most Subis have had their engines rebuilt, swapped or torn down because they always break down, mainly because of their owners taking shortcuts when tuning them or treating them like absolute shit. Subaru owners all wave to each other because they know that no one else on the road can relate to driving something so awful. Their favourite artist is Skrillex, and their favourite pastime is learning cool new vape tricks. Ford Mustang. The Ford Mustang is one of America's most iconic cars. It's been on sale for almost 60 years, starred in many films and TV shows, and they have seemed to dominate on a racetrack from time to time. Not only that, but some Mustangs were so special that they received treatment from the legendary Carroll Shelby. In recent years, American muscle cars have gotten much more powerful, which means that they are now very fast and very badass. And the Mustang was no exception. The problem is that these cars are not much more expensive than their mainstream siblings, so they remain as easily attainable as their less powerful counterparts. Unfortunately, unqualified drivers have an easy time getting behind the wheel of a car that's too fast for them. For whatever reason, the muscle car they choose is the poor Ford Mustang. With a reputation forged through countless botched exits at cars and coffee events, and videos of teenagers getting their dream Mustang only to wreck it a second later, the Ford Mustang is known all around as the crowd killer, and the reason your local car meet was cancelled. Thankfully, not all Mustang drivers are bad though, especially those with the last name Block. All BMWs. You surprised? Me neither. When the average person thinks about a BMW, they see a young lawyer with some newfound spending cash in their pocket. They're the one where jerks of all kind find refuge. BMWs like to think that their leather seats and their car's German pedigree makes them better than everyone else on the road. The horrors aren't just reserved for the road though. BMW drivers who fit the stereotype typically like to bring the show of dominance to the parking lot. They drive like they're the only vehicles on the road. They don't know how to use their indicators, they don't know the meaning of the term speed limit, or at least believe that it doesn't apply to them, and they like to jump traffic lights. If you've ever seen one getting a ticket, they will always be full of rage that someone has dared to cite them, even when they're at fault. Quoting from Urban Dictionary, they seem to think that they're better than everyone else, and the BMW is the pinnacle of human achievement. They imagine that other people's dislike for them is due to jealousy of them and their car, and that owning said vehicle means that they are richer than everyone else, and is not in any way due to them exhibiting their behaviours outlined earlier. In short, they exhibit many of the traits associated with being a narcissist or a sociopath. In other words, they are just a shower of cunt. Ford Fiesta. The humble Ford Fiesta is one of the best selling and popular cars in the world. Well, in my neck of the woods anyway. The Fiesta is a very popular first car, and it's a great vehicle to learn to drive in. The Fiesta was never really considered a potential sports car until the old XR2 was released, but then that sporty magic pretty much vanished in the early 2000s. But it was revived thanks to the ZTEC S and the ST models. The new Fiestas have a tiny turbocharged engine which is powerful and very economical, and so it is very aftermarket friendly. This means that Fiestas are now very popular with people who like to rev their engines to impress women and get nowhere, install pops and bang setups, and look like an absolute twat while they're doing all this. Most Fiestas are driven by late teen or late 20-year-olds who want everyone to know how cool they are. It's a massive shame as the Fiesta is a great car ruined by the people who drive them. The Range Rover. The Range Rover is an off-roader which is very luxurious, capable and beautiful. Unfortunately, the people who buy them aren't. Instead, they go out of their way just to show how much wealthier they or their husband is to you. To the eyes of the wealthy wife, your broke ass is in Peasantville, and their Range Rover that could in theory traverse the most intimidating terrain on planet Earth is not being used to do that. Instead, it is being used to cruise the streets of Knightsbridge to intimidate you in your second-hand vehicle after they just had a 40-minute argument with the manager of the shop or restaurant they were just at. Now, they have to pick up their pretentiously named children from school, all from a seating position high above you, in what they believe is a metaphor for our place in society. They are the car of the pretentious, arrogant, gold-digging asshole. And finally, we have the Opel Corsa. This car quite easily has the world's worst stereotype. The likeable Corsa has got not one, but 3 different stereotypes. The first of the elderly, people who are approaching the end of their driving career or even their own lives. They're slow, fond of the occasional incident, and they will frustrate everyone around them. Secondly, we have the learner driver. They're 17, they're a nervous wreck behind the wheel, and they still have a lot to learn. Again, they're very slow and will need a bit more practice before entering the big bad world of driving. Expect some minor damage and some L or N plates on their windows. And finally, we have the nonce. These drivers come from either council or agricultural areas, and they will buy their Corsas in 3-door trim, in bright flamboyant colours. They will certainly have black wheels, and they will be seen at McDonald's or any other fast food chain. Their goal is to get some action, but you may ask yourself, but the Ferrari guy, what kind of 20-something-year-old, civilised, sophisticated, strong, independent woman would spend her Friday nights at McDonald's? The answer is none of them. Instead, 15 to 18-year-olds are their primary target. They're gullible hoochies and are likely to be dressed up like a slut. They seem to like the older guy sort of thing, even when they're under the age of consent. Tragically, these owners take advantage, and therefore the Corsa's reputation is ruined forever. To make things worse, the nonces are evolving into other cars such as Golfs and Audi A4s, so it seems that their reputation could be going downhill as well in the not too distant future. So what do you think? Are there any more cars I should mention? I do have a feeling I missed out on a few of them, some particularly obvious ones, but I can add that in another video. Anyways, remember to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and I hope to see you soon.